Okay, so the next task really is to create a link between your argument form and some research of your own. So as you can see here, I've gone back to one of my planned sentences, because child labour, ... it. So from yesterday, you would have written down 3 or 4, you would have completed those 3 sentences, because child labour ... Now the first thing I'm doing, okay, is I'm reframing my sentence, and I'm stealing some of the good emotive words that I saw in that opening text today. So I've taken the word deprive. Can you see it there? So I'm taking the word deprive from the earlier text that I've read, and I've put it in. Because child labour deprives children of their childhood, it must be stopped. Now, this is the middle bit. Now, this is the bit you're going to have time to do. So actually, the talking amount is going to be very small, because I want to give you time to use the internet to do your own research. Now, it says then we need a logos appeal. In other words, we need a fact, a piece of research, and or a quote. Now, in this box here, depending on how quickly you can find information, how confident you feel, you can do and or. So you could do a fact and some research and a quote. These are all about logos appeal. This is all about having information that will appeal to people's reasoning, their sense of argument, their logic, or you could do one or. So depending on how confident you find in this part of the table, you can do a fact, a piece of research, and a quote, or you can do one or the other. So because child labour deprives children of their childhood, it must be stopped. So guys, that was the idea that you came up with yesterday. Now, if you want to reframe it or rewrite it to use some better vocabulary, or to secure, an idea, and you might think, I can do a better job, that's what goes in that first section. Okay, then you're going to pause and you're going to do a little bit of research. That means you're going to do a little bit magic of Google online research to try and find some additional information for your own arguments about child labour. So from our opening text, I don't mind if you use some of that information as well, by the way, we've got 168 million children affected. So that was my research that's given us that fact. Now, I then went and did Google. Hello, Google. Can you please tell me somebody, a spokesperson for child labour? Because I was going to try and find a quote. So I found through my Google search, so you've got to sometimes look. That's why I'm going to give you time to do it today. And I came up with the quote, all children have the right to be protected from child labour, said ILO Director General Guy Ryder in a statement on the World Day. So there's my quote from Guy Ryder, an ILO Director General, who says all children have the right to be protected from child labour. So his quote supports my point that child labour is wrong. That's that match between the quotes and the comments. Now, and the but the scale of the problem is overwhelming. So I could just remind myself of a counter argument. Because actually 168 million is a big number. Now, I could have done Tom Higginson. Guys, if you know your Marvel, you know he plays Loki. But he's been on adverts recently as an ambassador for UNICEF. So I could have, now this is where we can be savvy, I could have remembered Tom Higginson. I've seen him in the adverts. I remember him from Marvel films. I could have done a quote from him. So I could have said something like, all children have the right to a childhood, says Tom Higginson, UNICEF ambassador and actor. So sometimes if you find it hard to find an exact quote, an exact piece of research or a fact, sometimes, particularly when you fast forward and you're doing this in an exam, you can be creative, okay? You can play a little bit and adapt a little bit, as long as you're covering a fact and research and quote, okay, for this middle section. So what you are going to do, guys, okay, you are going to pause the screen. You are going to complete the argument 4 using the same ideas from yesterday's lesson that you did, because child labour ... it, because child labour ... it. If at this stage you think you could word it better, that you could use a word from the opening text we've read, like condemned, deprived, exploitive, harmful, then that's your chance to make those statements, those arguments 4, even stronger. You are then going to go across and hop across to Google, okay, and see if you can find any unique facts, research, or quotes that are going to support what you're saying about child labour. Now, the magic of Google, sometimes it is about framing. So you might say something like, Google, what are some of the harmful effects of child labour? And it might say, research shows that one of the harmful effects of child labour is ... That's your research. So you would put that in this box here. So by the end of this, you are going to have a table, arguments for, your fact, research, quote. Now, depending on how quickly you do this, you might have either, or, and. So you might have either a fact or a piece of research or a quote, or you might have facts and research and quote, depending on how quickly you go. Now, because we're using YouTube videos, guys, the real time suggests that I'm going to come back in a minute and just check in with you. But we're not going to have a long conversation, okay? Because I want to give you the time to find out your research, okay? So really, I would say you're going to need a good 10-15 minutes on this task, okay? Looking at the research, recording it. So I'll see you in a minute, guys. Bye. Okay, guys, now the truth is you might have lots of research. You might have been really successful. You might have struggled. It might have been harder than you thought. But as long as you've got a piece of a fact, a piece of research, and a quote across your table, you'll have enough information to appeal to logos and to back up your argument for. Okay, so what comes next? Okay, so we've also got to think then, it says here, that invention planning also includes making sure we're thinking about all three areas. So really, we've done a little bit of logos planning, okay? We have done some research to help us sound reasonable and knowledgeable. We've got some facts now, some quotations. So we could tick off logos because by completing that column, we've done that. So how do we know that we can plan for our ethos and our pathos? So we want to think about who we're talking to. What do we know about them? What do they know about us? And pathos, what appeal to emotions do we want to create? So we're going to just do a last little planning activity, and then that's us done for the day. So in your books, we've got this neat thesis, this idea that we're planning towards, that we have a moral duty to do everything we can to stand against child labour across the world. Now, for your logos, we can tick that one as done because we've already done some research. 168 million children are affected. Okay, so we've covered that. Now, what I want you to do, if we look at pathos, what emotions do I want to appeal to? Now, in other words, do we want the audience to feel excited, scared, angry? And then how are we going to start to choose emotive vocabulary to play to that emotion? So underneath pathos, what emotions do I want to appeal to? What would you write in there? Now, I have left this blank, so I would like us to start moving to a little bit more autonomy and personal choice. So although I will verbally tell you what I might put here, this is going to be the last little bit that you complete for yourself. So if I wanted people to agree with me that we must stand against child labour across the world, what emotion might I want to appeal to? I want them to feel empathy, pity. I want them to feel sadness. I want them to feel angry that this is happening. So actually, that's quite a broad range of emotions, and that's going to come through my emotive vocab. So where it says bank of emotive vocab, I've got two to get us started. We're going to talk about children being deprived, their futures being condemned. I want us to think of some other words that might be really powerful. So if I want to feel sorry, I could just say children, or I could say innocent children, vulnerable children, children that do not deserve the terrible things that happen to them. So in a minute, your last task is going to be to recreate this little triangle. Logos, tick it off. That's the bit we've done in the table. But underneath pathos, what emotions do I want to appeal to? Don't do more than 3 at this stage, but write down 1 to 3 emotions. You might want to appeal to the emotion of, you might want your audience to feel angry. You might want to feel sad. You might want them to feel empowered, like they could do something. So we might want to use words like deprived, condemned, slaves, enslaved, mistreated, victimized. So actually there's a huge bank of potential words. So I just want you to write about 5. So in your bank of emotive vocab, just think about 5 really powerful words that are going to make the reader either feel angry, sad, scared, whichever emotion you're going after. Okay, now you might be an optimist. You might say, well, I want to appeal to their sense of hope that actually we can do something about this. So your bank of emotive vocab might look differently. You might be going for empowered, set free, released, rescued, saved, um, changed. So you might want to use vocabulary that's actually going to focus on the positive changes that we're going to bring about. And finally, under ethos, what face do I need to present? So how are they going to know you're a good person? How are they going to know you're knowledgeable? How are they going to know they can trust you? And how do they know you're going to genuinely care? Now, for that one, your challenge for that one is to write one sentence under ethos that introduces yourself and tries to hit at least 3 of that criteria. So again, I'm going to give you a verbal sentence and then you're going to write your own. So I might say, ladies and gentlemen, I have worked with UNICEF for 3 years. So I'm showing I'm knowledgeable. Okay. And I am passionate to see the lives of innocent children changed. So then I'm showing I'm a good person because I'm passionate, but that I genuinely care. So I could say in that sentence, I've introduced myself, I've hit off that I'm a good person, knowledgeable, and genuinely care. Okay, so underneath ethos, I want you to create, so it's going to be a fake sentence, okay? It's a sentence that we can say as I read that sentence, it makes it clear that you're good, that you know about the topic of child labour, that we can trust you, that you genuinely care. So actually you could cheat, yeah, by using some of those words. I genuinely care about the future of all children, with 168 million children trapped in a cycle of slavery and exploitation. It's time to make a change. So that shows I genuinely care. That shows I'm knowledgeable and that you can trust me. Okay, guys, so your final task. Logos is done because that's the part of the table. So you can just write the top of your little triangle, logos ticks. I've got my topics, facts, and quotes covered. Pathos, you're just going to write down your 3 emotions that you want to create or appeal to, and 5 words that are particularly emotive that can help you do that. And then under ethos, you're going to write 1 practice sentence that just is going to set up that you're a good person, knowledgeable, trustworthy, and genuinely care about the topic. Okay, my lovelies? So happy learning, and I'll see you tomorrow.